of strength and conditioning is filled with some fantastic practitioners that are always searching for more. But more what? What are strength and conditioning coaches searching for to better their ability to prepare their athletes? Well, what about cutting edge information, or a place where you can find different opinions from forward-thinking coaches on what you're doing, how you're doing, and try to get feedback to be better for your athletes? Or what about a place where you'll find like-minded coaches that can provide solid coaching advice and career development for you as you progress through your career as a strength and conditioning professional? Well, this is exactly why we built the Strength Coach Network. You'll have access to exclusive monthly content on top of the sensationally active forum that we have, where you can communicate with coaches all over the world to find those answers that you're looking for to help you be a better practitioner for your athletes. So make sure you hop on over to strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASPS, that's strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASPS, and get your 48-hour trial for only $1. I look forward to seeing you in the Strength Coach Network. Today's episode of Outside the Rack is brought to you by Kinetic Performance, the makers of the Gymaware. In today's world of strength and conditioning, data collections become the utmost of importance, and that's exactly where Gymaware separates itself from the competition. Because when we're sitting there and looking to collect data, what data are you actually collecting? And are the numbers you're looking at fitting into the exercises that you're utilizing? And even more so, are they going to answer the questions that you're looking for? Looking at different ways that you are moving the barbell through peak and mean, both velocity and power, is really what separates Gymaware from the competition. Being able to understand what your ballistic exercises are doing separate to what your strength exercises are doing really allows you to program at a much more specific level for your athletes. So hop on over to kinetic.com.au to see what Evan and his team have in store for you today. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the 44th episode of Outside the Rack, brought to you by Kinetic Performance, the makers of Gymaware. In this show, we're just going to try to dive a little deeper into the top minds of the best practitioners in the world of sport performance to learn a little bit more about who they actually are and how they got to where they are today. Today, we are joined by the University of Florida's Associate Director of Strength and Conditioning, Matt Delancey. Matt, thanks for being with us today, man.
My pleasure, Jay. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Stoked to catch up. Stoked to have you on. But before we get going too far, brother, who is Matt Delancey?
So I think this is probably one of the toughest questions people ask, at least it is for me. I think I'll start off with saying my family is my first priority. My wife, Audi, our two dogs. So outside of that, I'm an outgoing, compassionate overthinker at times. Tough to keep that in check, but I work hard at it. I really enjoy the day-to-day interactions with others. My absolute favorite thing is working collectively towards a common goal with another person or a group of people. Some people that I admire, I think this gives you insight a little bit who I am. In no particular order, Mary Wise, who's our head volleyball coach. She's one of the pioneers in coaching as a female coach. Like, she was the first woman to coach in an NCAA volleyball final, and I've been privileged to see that. And Linda Taylor, who is our senior women's administrator, she's a Black woman who is in a high level position, and I think that her path to where she's at probably was tough, and so obviously a lot of admiration and respect for Linda. Anthony Nesty is our head men's swim coach, Black male, and as you know, like coaching, sometimes they don't hire the minority, and I think Anthony probably had a lot to work through in his career. And then Mike Holloway, who's our men's and women's head track coach, and he actually just put out a great piece on our web, floridagators.com, on kind of like his life experiences with racism. And so those are four people that I admire. I think it's an insight to me. And then I'll finish off with, I value hard work, integrity, and relationships with others.
I value hard work, integrity, and relationships with others. I think is probably, like, if someone were to say, give me a sentence that you would say that's what Matt is, I think that's like hammer, meat, nail, bro. That's awesome. But listen, Matt, you've been all over the place. You were in Richmond, Virginia, and then you kindly moved aside so that I could get a job. Yeah. you kindly were just like, nah, I'm going to go to Florida. You guys can go hire Jay. But you're not just a person who's been down there for 16, 17 years and has been complacent. You're someone who's been pushing the envelope, trying to drive to be better every day for the young people you get to work with. And so I'm really fired up to hear about this, buddy. Like, if you wouldn't mind, describe a learning situation that brought about an epiphany in your career.
So for me, the epiphany for me came from working with track and swimming, really, and how you taper those athletes. And track and swim taper is obviously just a little different, but there's some similarities there. And for me, the learning moment was for swimming when we would drop weights anywhere from 10 to 21 days out from the conference meet. And when I first started, I'm like, oh man, I wonder how this is going to go. And then they go swim faster. In my head, I'm like, okay, there's a real thing to this dropping weights for swimmers, right? And we do that with track too a little bit with our sprint group, and they run faster. And I know that I think one of the things, as I'm guilty of this for sure, and I think our profession is guilty of this, is sometimes we don't know when to get out of the way of our athletes. So watching those situations, and not just watch it work once or twice, but consecutively year after year after year, and not just at the NCAA level with our Olympians that go and break world records at the Olympics. You know, Dressel can drop weights anywhere from 21 to 28 days out because that guy is a very dense muscular human that needs a lot of rest. And the more he rests at that point, the better he is. I mean, you've seen his 2 world championship meets. I mean, that guy, he rests as hard as he works. So for a learning experience for me, that watching that process happen with these athletes, that changed my direction with how I deal with all athletes that I work with. And for me, when I write programs at this point, that has got me to the question is, once I've written the program, I look at it, okay, what's not essential? What can I cut out of here? What can I take out of here? And I think for me, that was the real epiphany, is that just get out of their way.
I love that, man. I've talked a bit about that too, is like listening and kind of letting them be them when it's time to shine. But it's really funny how, like, when you just say, all right, let's let the horsey run, that horse can go, you know?
Can go. It's true.
I love it, brother. I love it. You know, Caleb's a great example, but there have been plenty who have come through there who, and they could get off the blocks and get back faster. They could get out of the blocks and get around that track fast. And it's a testament to you being so willing to let the athlete be the athlete.
I think the key too is listening to the head coaches or assistant coaches too with their event groups, because they have a different perspective than we have about the weight room's value with their athlete. And I think our value, we're always going to be a little skewed because it's our job, right? And I think for a long time, strength and conditioning at one point was always trying to justify why we get paid and why should get paid more. And I think that still plays out a little bit with maybe in the background of our algorithms. We're not thinking about it anymore, but I still think there's a little bit of that where we're still trying to justify why we get paid or why we have jobs. And in reality, it doesn't even come down to that. It's like, what are you doing to maximize your athlete's experience and performance in their 4 or 5 year career that they have at the University of Florida or at the University of Richmond, for that matter, right? So I think it's the thing I've really learned is when a coach says something, are they saying exactly what they mean? Or maybe they're not exactly sure what they mean, but they know there's something that's around that statement they're telling you. And maybe sometimes we have to just decode what they said. You got to take their emotion out of it, and then you got to decode what they said, because sometimes when they might say, wow, they don't look strong. And I've heard that a couple times with track. And then I'm like, when I was younger, I was like, they don't look strong. And then as you learn over time, well, fatigue and strength, you know, if you're tired and not being strong, kind of look the same, right? So if my track coach starts saying, man, they don't look strong in my head, I'm like, okay, it's time to pull back a little bit, because it's not a strength issue, they're tired. So I think learning how to decode your coach's messages, I think those are important part of that epiphany as well, right? So
I dig that, man. And I think that that's something like both aspects of it, I think is hard, right? To be able to take a step back and be like, to look in the mirror and try to not have that knee jerk reaction is difficult.
that they really check your ego at the door.
Mm-hmm.
It's I think that's challenging for anybody.
No doubt. No doubt. Well, listen, Matt, let's get on to the next one, buddy. So if you could ask one question and you know that you're going to get the answer, what is that question going to be and why?
Well, I think that over the course of the last 10 days, this question has changed in my head because clearly we're in a situation in our country, and I think it's just the country, I guess the world, where we're at a point of major potential change in a positive direction. And to me, the question that I'm really banging around in my head, I'm sure I'm not the only one, is, how do we end racism in this world and create a fair, balanced platform for every single human? I mean, and as to the why, I mean, everyone should have at least the opportunity to work on a fair, balanced starting point to get as far to get as far as they can and find the best version of themselves. And I think right now we're in a situation where, and I firmly accept this as a white male. I'm privileged as a white male. I'll accept that. Like, I'm a big guy, and every once in a while I have a short fuse. And if I'm involved with the police pulling me over or something, I don't think about how this interaction could go wrong for me. But if it's a black male the same size as me, and maybe we're almost the same person, except our skin color is different, right? That black male, as soon as he gets pulled over, he's worried about his life. So for me, like, I think recognizing that we have privilege that we may never have thought about before, and it comes back to the question is, like, how do we end racism and create fair, balanced platforms where people that get pulled over that are people of color, they're not fearing for their life because of a traffic stop, or they ran a stop sign, or they were 6 miles over the speed limit. So to me, that's where my mind is right now with if I could get a question answered, that would be the one.
Yeah, and I think that right now there's so many layers to that onion.
Without a doubt.
Like starting to peel it back one by one, like, it's obviously going to be a long road to hoe, but I think that it's one that is starting to be paved, and at least people right now are starting to stop worrying about talking about it and are at least open to listening.
I think that watching these protests and seeing a larger portion of white people involved is part of the solution. Obviously, it's not the whole solution. And I firmly believe that if you're a white person and you see racism happening in front of your face and you don't say anything about it, that makes you complicit to it. And complicity at this point towards racism is actually a form of racism. And I can promise you that I will not be complicit in situations where it's happening right in front of my face. And if calling people out on social media, I think that that's at least part of the solution. It's not the entire answer. There's many, like you said, there's many layers to this, but I think that white people have to take ownership of their role in this.
I think that that's fair, and I think that that's something that we're going to talk more and more about, especially with the young people that we get to work with, day in and day out to try to be better.
Absolutely, be the role model that helps affect change.
Yeah, and Matt, I think that one thing that a lot of people talk about with what we do, right, is that we're in this servant role and we're here to do what's best for these young people and all this, that, and the third. But like, I don't think it's that hard to sit down and listen to them tell us how we can be better. Like, we were talking about that a little before, right? I don't think that, like, and maybe you and I are lucky because we're in, unique positions where we're able to be so involved with these young people. But like, instead of it being like a hard conversation, to me, it is almost like refreshing to be like, wow, okay,
Right.
good. Like I'm trying, like, it's not just like, I want to make sure that the exercises transfer to basketball, right? Like
Right.
now, obviously that's important, different level of importance, but obviously
Different
that's
level.
important. But
That's right.
like, if there's something that we're doing that we don't even recognize, I would want to know, you know?
Absolutely.
And
I think
it's,
I think opening up the veil on on the ignorant portion of this is important. And it's if you've never had anybody tell you and you don't know, like at some level, you gotta find ways to find your gaps, find your blind spots. And I think opening up with your athletes and say, hey, tell me where I've been wrong. Like sit down, like you said, have a conversation with them. If you're willing to talk about performance, why wouldn't you be willing to talk about something even more important? This is really, to me, this is really important. Like this is the time to do it. You know, get figure it out. Like where can I be better? What have I said that I didn't recognize? And you maybe explain it to me, help me understand so I can be better. And that way I can help other white people be better as well. Because if you don't know, then you obviously can't call it out when you see it. So if you want to know, you have to ask the hard questions. Like, and I think for the most part, athletes will be honest with you. I think I think we've built relationships with people that when you ask them questions, they'll give you feedback when you ask for it.
no doubt, man, no doubt. But yeah, I think that the wheels are turning, and hopefully things continue to progress.
Yep.
Well, listen, Matt, let me get you out of here on this, brother. I mean, you're a guy that's training people all the time and training some of the best that are doing it right now and the best to ever do it. So at some point, though, Matt needs some time to, recharge and get back to zero. So what's Delancey's escape?
So for me, the escape is house projects, nature. Although I don't get out in nature as much as I would like to, I really enjoy going out to the Ishituckney River with Audi, and we tube or kayak down. It's a spring-fed river. It's crystal clear. It's beautiful. You don't have to worry so much about alligators in that scenario. And the other one is obviously I love the beach, and those are my escapes. I was not good at that when I was younger in my career. I'm guilty of guarding empty weight rooms. So I think that the escape portion of this has gotten better because as a profession, I think we are getting better in this area where if we don't have athletes, why are you in the weight room? Go get out, enjoy. Like, so I think that's a phenomenal question to end with, because I think our profession can get a lot better at learning how to take their escapes when they need them.
You said I used to be great at guarding empty weight rooms. That is the greatest line I've ever heard about how we used to operate. Oh, man. And you know what? Also, shout out to the puppies, because if you guys don't follow Matt on Instagram, you're missing out, because he's got two awesome dogs that are great to watch grow up and run around and play. But no, man. Matt, always great to catch up, brother. Truly appreciate it. We'll be in touch soon.
Yeah, my pleasure, Jay. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, man. Thank you.